And that's when I discovered that he had been picked.
So recently, a mother has came out on TikTok exposing a church and a daycare center for allegedly essaying her son. And according to her, the church has retaliated by gang stalking, and it's been a massive cover-up by the League City Police.
I'm literally spiraling. I don't know who to turn to.
Not only has she spoken out, but the daycare, the church, and other people have spoken out, claiming that she is a liar. So in this video, what I'm going to do is get all the evidence and everything that's been released to the public and put it in a timeline fashion so we can have a better understanding of the whole situation. Now, before we continue, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe with notifications so you guys can keep updated with part 2 and other stories like this. So let's get into who is Ciera. So from my understanding, Ciera doesn't really have a digital footprint online. There's not really a lot of information out there. What it seems like a single mother who's doing her best in her life to take care of her 2 kids. One that is 6-year-old and a younger one named Noah, who is around 3, I believe, who has a father named Andrew, and according to her, checks in now and then. So let's begin when it all started. So Noah started going to daycare at 1 year old. It seems like Ciera wanted her son to open up more because he was a pandemic baby. And after going to daycare, it seemed that he started to become more outgoing and talkative.
He fell in love with his teacher and his friends, and he became like this energetic, rambunctious little boy. They're always wanting to go to daycare and be with his teacher and his friends.
And it came to a point where she wanted her son to take his education to the next level so he can be ready for elementary school with his older brother. And that's when she decided to take her son to Little People Greater Life because they had the program to help Noah accomplish that. So he started going to that daycare on August the 17th, 2022. The daycare is apparently a rented out place next to the church. What's really interesting, when she started going to this daycare, the owner of the daycare, Hamsa, the director, according to her IN, made it very clear to Ciera that the church had nothing to do with the daycare. No one from the church was going into the daycare, etc., and making her basically feel comfortable. Then in the middle of September in 2022, Ciera started to notice a difference in her son's behavior. She has actually shared online. One of them being that one day she noticed when Noah was going to the bathroom, he was standing up. And that was strange to her because she was only potty training him.
So I potty trained him sitting down. One day we came home, and basically if you hear someone like using a bathroom, a man particularly, or a boy, you would know if they're like sitting down or standing up. But that's basically what was going on with him. So I jump up when I heard that, and I run in the bathroom, and I'm like, who taught you that? What are you doing? Who taught you that? And he kept saying that his best friend taught him. And I was just like, what best friend? And I'm thinking it's a kid.
And it turns out it wasn't, which we'll get into later how Ciera discovered that. Keep watching. Now Ciera was still very concerned and ended up contacting Hamsa through text.
So I had asked her who taught him how to stand up to, because I didn't teach him how to stand up, and he was just now learning how to completely be potty trained on his own. I didn't want him standing up, and I thought it was weird.
Could you give me a call to discuss that? She did not reach out to me. Any other time, she would reach out and send me a text message if I had a concern about something.
They didn't reach out to me when I asked.
Ciera never provided evidence to show that that text message between her and Hamsa, that conversation ever happened, or her even asking her through text message.
So when I took him back to daycare the next morning because I had to be in class for nursing, I asked Hamsa. She came to the door, and I asked her who taught him to. And it wasn't a question that was right off. She basically was telling me about other things and just kind of like threw off my question. I felt like she was kind of stalling, to be honest, or avoiding the question that I was going to ask. So I asked her before she shut the door, who taught him to, and did she get my text? And she goes, oh yeah, I did see that. Okay, so she basically was like, yeah, he probably was just watching another little kid do that. You know how kids, how they mimic. So at the time, you know, she was sweet. I didn't think anything of her lying about things like this. So I just said, okay, I don't want him standing up and can you make sure he sit down and from now on? She said, okay, will do. And after that, it took a couple of days for him to get back on routine. He just was so adamant about this best friend. He kept saying his best friend.
1 week later, Noah started getting spontaneous fever.
Me and his pediatrician was trying to figure out why he was having spontaneous fevers and spontaneous asthma attacks. During the time that he was sick, I ended up keeping him out, and I didn't contact the daycare right away to let them know that he would be out. I kind of was just confused because the weather was great. It hadn't been raining and hadn't been extremely hot or cold. It was just perfect weather. And I was just trying to figure out why he was having spontaneous fever. Even his pediatrician was confused. He didn't have an infection, bacteria, or anything. So she gave him some antibiotics and I had to give him Motrin because the fever just kept rising and rising that particular week. When it was time for him to go back to school that Sunday, he expressed to me, he said, no, Mama, I stay home with you. And I said, no, Mama has class. He said, well, I go to Ethan's school. I go to Ethan's school. Ethan is his big brother. And I said, no, you have to go to school. You're going to school. Ethan has to go to school. You have to go to school.
Which was out of the ordinary for Noah because he loved going to daycare. He loved talking. He loved learning, communicating.
I think about that. I feel a little bit guilty because he was basically trying to tell me that something was going on.
She ended up finding out that Noah has actually been really quiet at the daycare center ever since he's been going and not his usual talking self.
Hamsa comes to the door and she's like, yeah, he's talking now. He told me that a friend sat their hand on the seat or something. He sat on it, so he told me that. I was more concerned with her telling me that he was talking because he could hold a whole conversation with you. That's what raised the flag with me, because if he wasn't talking to them at all, then something was definitely wrong.
Another thing that Ciera noticed is that her son ended up touching his behind.
I had a friend of mine who's a cop who was outside in the backyard with my other son, and me and Noah was just standing there on the front porch, and I was like, you don't want to go back there and play? And he was like, yeah. And then I was like, okay, well, go. So he went, but then he just wasn't really like in a playing mood. My friend had ended up seeing that he started digging in his butt. He was like, why are you digging in your butt? So I was just like, Noah, come here. You need me to wipe? So he was like, yeah. So I picked him up and took him in the house, got a wet towel, wiped him, dried him, changed his clothes and his underwear. I was bending down looking at him, and I was like, are you okay? And he was like, yeah. But I could tell something was wrong with him. So I didn't look back there that Monday when I wiped him.
She noticed that Noah started getting nightmares.
And I thought, what? Why is he having nightmares? Jumping in his sleep. I really started observing him then, because he never had nightmares before.
She also noticed some other things. She was having problems with the daycare center. She felt like they were stalling her when it came to them giving her son, like asking to see ID, etc., when they never used to do it. And one day when she went to pick up her son, the daycare taker was acting a bit off.
Lady Hasna came from around the building and kept saying, bye, Noah. Noah would not talk to her. He ignored her. He wouldn't say anything with her. She had this stupid smirk on her face. I was looking at her weird because me and her had a run-in about a few weeks prior. Put him in the vehicle, and I said, Noah, you didn't want to say bye to her? He was like, no, I don't want to say bye to her.
Now, on October the 12th, 2022, Ciera discovered that her son was AS.
So I went to go pick up my son from daycare, and when the teacher brought him to me, I kept saying, hello, hi, how are you? And he kind of was just very mellow and was just like, hi. I picked him up and he just wasn't really talkative. He wasn't himself. So I put him in, his car seat, and he was not really wanting to sit on his bottom. Before I could even, pull off, he had already stood on his knees and turned backwards. Usually when he does that, it's mainly because he wants to poo. So I didn't think anything of it. I thought maybe he had to go to the bathroom to poo. From the drive home, coming from Little People Greater Life, basically is 5 miles, and my other son's daycare was literally right down the street from the house. As we got home, both of my kids had went to the kitchen to go get their snack, as they usually does. As we walk upstairs, I noticed that he was struggling to walk upstairs. At this time, I get on the phone, but I'm still observing him. As we walk up the stairs and we go to the guest room, I'm sitting down and I'm talking, and I'm still noticing him, that he's standing up still, but at this time playing with his tablet and eating his snack. Within 5 minutes into my conversation, he walks out of the room and goes to the guest bathroom to use the bathroom. He calls my name, and I go in there while I'm still on the phone to wipe him. As I wipe him once, he clenches really bad. I asked him, did that hurt? He says, yeah. So I was like, okay. So I didn't wipe him again that hard. I felt like I didn't wipe him that hard, but it was just odd that he would say that. So as we got finished, he gets up off the toilet, but I'm also noticing that he's struggling to get off the toilet. So I thought maybe I wiped him too hard. So as he get off the toilet, he pulls up his underwear and his bottoms, and I go back into the guest room thinking that he's gonna follow behind me to go in the guest room. So I sit down, talk on the phone again while I'm still on the phone. I'm like, well, maybe he went in my room to go look at TV with his brother or whatever. Not even 5 minutes later, he calls me crying and everything, saying that he has to use the bathroom. He used the bathroom. So my other son runs in there and is like, Noah says that he has to use the bathroom, or he used the bathroom. But anyway.
According to the police report, Noah actually ran to his mother with his pants and underwear down, saying that his bum hurt.
I end up getting off the phone, and I end up jumping up and going into the master bathroom where he maneuvered from the guest bathroom. As I get to that bathroom, I noticed that he had put a lot of tissue in the toilet. He was wiping himself, so I was trying to figure out what is going on. So I said, okay, before I even wipe you, let me check you out. So we walked back to guest bedroom, and I laid him on his tummy, and that's when I discovered that he had been penetrated. I asked him, who goes to the bathroom with you? What happened to you? Who did this? There was so many questions that I had to ask my son. And all he kept saying was a man, and he kept saying a name, but I couldn't really make out what the name that he was saying. So I immediately took pictures.
Ciera, being really concerned and worried about her son, contacts Hamsa to ask what is going on, and asking her questions to try to figure out what happened to Noah.
I'm asking her who takes Noah to the bathroom, because he's saying that a man touched him. She basically proceeded by saying, there's no men that take him to the bathroom. He goes to the bathroom on his own. And which I told her, what do you mean that he goes to the bathroom on his own? You did not tell me when I enrolled him in August. So she said, well, the bathroom is across the hallway from the class, so they didn't want the kids to interrupt class, so they let them go to the bathroom on their own. At that time, I was hysterical, and I said, what do you mean that you let them go on their own? He just got potty trained like a few months prior. Like, what do you mean? In which she tells me, do you know what he's saying, who he's saying, what is he saying, the name? She was more concerned about the name that my son was saying in the background, because he kept saying the name. I really couldn't make out what he was saying, but she was like, there's no men at this daycare. She was basically trying to say my son was lying. He's 3. How the he's going to lie about something like that? And yeah, I just looked at him and I took pictures. He literally was. I didn't tell her that, but She was like, we could talk about this in the morning. She rushed me off the phone.
I said, well, he's saying a name, and I'm gonna believe my child. He's saying a name. So she goes, we could talk tomorrow when you get the name.
According to her, she ends up getting rushed off the phone, and that's when she decided to contact the police and get the authorities involved.
I got off the phone with her and I immediately called League City PD. What I know now, considering that I reported in League City, because I was living in League City, I would have took a different route and reported in Webster. Actually, they were supposed to have transferred the case. After when the cops came out, I gave my statement of what happened. So as I'm sitting there on the couch with my son, he has his back turned towards the police officers. He wouldn't look at them. As I given them my statement, I showed them the pictures and I asked one of the cops, what do you think about this? And he basically said, it looks suspicious, take him to the hospital.
She also gave Noah's underwear to the police, which is a normal procedure.
They asked for the underwear.
This is also mentioned in the police report as well. This is usually done for forensic testing, for other bodily fluids.
So they gave me a essay form to take to the hospital, of which they wanted me to go to Galveston. So I was like, can I take him to Webster? When they were like, well, either or. They didn't really know if forensic nurses were at the location in Webster. So after they left and grabbed him, and we went straight to UTMB Webster. Once we got to UTMB Webster, we went into triage and I explained to the RN what happened. There was this tech that was a guy, and he started walking towards me and Noah to put the blood pressure cup on his arm. As he's getting ready to put the blood pressure cup on his arm, Noah did this. He is never squeamish around anyone. Prior to this, he have always been happy-go-lucky, speak to man, woman, boy, girl, it didn't matter. But immediately I told him to step back. Something obviously is going on. So that is when the RN, she looked at that too. She was just like, So she asked me about him getting checked there, but she also informed me that there was no forensic nurse.
She ends up leaving and going to the Galveston hospital because they had the forensic nurse there.
When we got to UTMB Galveston, they immediately triaged us. I told them everything that had happened, the doctor and everything. I even showed them the pictures. She had the look on her face. We basically was sitting there for a while because they didn't have any help. They only had one forensic nurse that we were waiting for. As we waited for the forensic nurse, he would not let me touch him. He would go over there and sit on the stool. It's like a little half stool or whatever, with his bottom halfway off of the stool. I guess it felt comfortable for him to sit that way. And I was calling his name and he was just ignoring me. He wouldn't talk to me. He just kind of was just keeping his distance. He barely wanted me to touch him, but he did fall asleep in my arms when forensic nurse came. Forensic nurse went through the whole protocol, me with the doctor as well, to let me know the steps and everything of doing a SANE exam, which is a kit exam for the lab report. She went to go check to see if the room was completely done.
While she's waiting there, according to Ciera, Noah started to open up a little bit more about the situation to what happened.
Noah made a disturbing statement saying that gesturing, he was on my back. When she came in, I told the nurse what he said.
And from what it sounds like, the nurse was talking to Ciera how she feels she'll be able to get Noah to open up a little bit so she can learn more about the situation.
And I said, well, maybe he won't talk to you. I don't know, because he doesn't really know you. She said, you'll be surprised. When she came back with him, because he did end up falling asleep and everything. So when she came back with him, he was upset. So of course they had to wake him up to do the testing. She said he did say something.
According to the nurse report, this is what was said. The nurse says, during the exam, Noah, does this hurt? He nods his head yes. The nurse says, did you hurt this at home? He shakes his head no. She says, where did you hurt it? The nurse gets no response, and then she asks him, did you hurt it at school? He says yes. Looks at the nurse and tears start rolling down his cheek. The nurse said, did you hurt yourself at school? And then Noah shakes his head no. She then asks him, do you know who hurt you at school? And Noah nods his head and states that he wants to talk to his mom.
And she went through the whole everything with the doctor, with me. The doctor talked to me like They asked me questions. At that time, I was confused. I didn't know how to feel. And basically, I was trying to figure out who did this to him. I was confused. So they gave me the paperwork. They did give me the paperwork. And final diagnosis says assault of a child.
Now, Ciera also mentions that the nurse told her this.
It was a cut, and did I notice the cut? And I told her no. And I said, you think you found fluid? You think you found fluid? And she nodded her head.
Now, this wasn't mentioned anywhere throughout the forms that Ciera provided. It does say on the police report, though, that Ciera said that the nurse that conducted the same exam on October told her that it was an adult male that did this and that she poured fluid from Noah's A. It also says that when they contacted the doctor, Dr. Beach, and she advised that the same nurse did note that there was runny stool leakage, Dr. Beach observed an A tear and advised it could be a tear from hard bowel movement or ASA. Also was mentioned that Ciera hasn't spoke about publicly that I know of is that he did have a lesion on his boy part, as well as that on the police report it says
by the response of the forensic nurse and doctor saying, hey, he needs to see his primary care doctor, of which I did end up taking him.
So after that, Ciera ends up booking a follow-up appointment for her son with the PD nutrition to see how much damage was done to Noah and to also do a STD testing. And then after this, she ends up contacting Noah's father.
As we getting home, I contacted Noah's father to let him know what happened. Even though I haven't seen him in 2 years, he still would like check in every now and then or whatever. And so that was the one time that I said, hey, you need to call me, there's something serious that's going on. He called me. I told him everything that was going on. His first reaction, he said, don't worry about anything. I have my full legal team. As I'm telling him everything and sending him pictures, he couldn't believe what the pictures that I took. It's a good thing that I did take the pictures after picking him up from the daycare, because it showed the abrasions and the everything clearly.
Okay, so sometime after that, Noah's dad ended up doing some research, looking into the church, and found some pictures. He ends up sending them to Ciera. But according to the police report, they spoke to Andrew, and that wasn't accurate. Now, she ends up sharing these pictures to her son at separate occasions, okay? The first time was with Noah.
When Noah woke up at 4 o'clock that morning, I presented the 3 pictures to him. He picked that particular picture. And on the picture, he seen the elder man and he jumped and shook his head and said, no, 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 no. He hurried up and swiped over. And then he seen the other man and he said, that's my best friend right there.
The quote unquote best friend that showed him how to standing up.
I immediately recorded that and sent it to his father and said, oh my God, no one knows these people.
Now, she has not provided this video to the public yet, showing this video footage indicating that no one knows them. Her older son ends up waking up and she ends up showing the photos to him.
He knew the 2 boys. He said, yes, they would take us to the church. When Noah's class came in there, all of them were standing around watching Noah and his friends play. My son had noticed that, and at the time, he was 6.
Now, on the 13th of October, the police end up contacting Andrew, Ciera's ex. It says, I contacted the reportee, Andrew, who is the biological father of John Doe, and stated he had additional information. Andrew stated he hired a private investigator named blank to get involved. He said he contacted a child care investigator, Tara, who said works under CPS and went to the daycare to investigate. He said that he received the results back of the SA exam from UTMB Galveston. Andrew said that when he spoke to Tara, he wanted her honest opinion on whether the incident happened at the daycare or not. He said that Tara told him that she did not believe that the incident happened at the daycare. Andrew said that he believes that Ciera is crazy and she brings men home from time to time. He believes that it could have possibly been a random man that Ciera may have brought home. Majority of the information he stated was already stated by Ciera. Andrew sent me multiple emails containing the information and pictures that he spoke about. Now, this is not elaborated on in the report about the pictures pictures that he spoke about, because in the previous page it said that this was not so accurate about him giving pictures to Ciera. And Ciera recently showed proof that he did send her pictures. Now also in the report it is mentioned that they talked to the alleged teacher, that is Noah's teacher, and Hamsa. And this is what is basically in the report. They basically talk about how the kids went to the daycare and how the oldest son stopped going. She talked about the camera system and how they've been off for 3 months. We'll get more into that later. She also provided a list of people that worked at the daycare and that no men worked in the daycare, and that there was only a man that came 2 months ago to fix the plumbing issues. It's also stated in the report that she said ever since parents would actually go in front of the daycare to pick up their kids, they weren't able to go inside unless it was the office at the near the front door if they needed to sign something. Hamsa also said that 2 weeks prior she advised Mrs. Laurie that she did not believe that the daycare is the right fit for her and she may need to find another daycare. Hamsa stated that this was decided due to Miss Laurie calling one of her teachers racist, her continuously bringing sugar and peanuts in the school, which is against policy, and her refusing to clip John's nails. Hamsa stated that Hasna Haramooch was John's teacher. She stated that she worked at the daycare for a year. She basically states in the report that all the children that in her class are potty trained and they know how to use the bathroom by themselves, and she only helps them if they ask her for help. She also states if one child wants to go to the bathroom, she will let that child go to the bathroom and she will stand between her class and the hallway so she can keep an eye on the class, and as well the bathroom door, not inside the bathroom but that area, and she would know when they're finished and when they wash their hands. Now she stated that Noah never asked her to use the bathroom, and she also said that the only time he did go to the bathroom was when the rest of the classroom went. She also states in the report that every morning they do health checks to make sure if the kids are alright, if they need to do a boo-boo, or if anything hurts. She also stated when Noah ever has anything, he actually goes and tells her, and on the 10th he had a scrape on his hand, and then on the 11th he had a scrape on his arm. She also talks about an incident that she had with Ciera.
I went to go pick him up
and she wouldn't give the child to Ciera without a form of ID, and apparently according to Ciera, she knew she was the mother. The most recent incident that happened according to this report, she said that she asked Ciera to cut Noah's nails because when he was eating his sandwich, his nails were going into the sandwich. Now according to her in this report, she's saying that Ciera refused to cut the nails and she said to her that she was never going to stop. Now, according to the report, Hamsa ends up trying to call Ciera to get information on the case, and Ciera told her to F off. Ciera felt that they were fishing for information. No evidence was handed to the police, and as well as that, Ciera never provided any evidence of this call on her TikTok. Now, the Monday comes and she's going to do the follow-up appointment with Noah.
When I take him to his doctor's appointment, we see the aftermath of what had happened.
The pediatrician, she knows us and she have known Noah since birth. So she knew him from top to bottom, inside out. When I was explaining her to everything that was going on, she was really upset about that, and she wanted to check to see how much of the damage that was done. When she checked him, she thoroughly checked him, and then after she seen that he was super uncomfortable, I have to remind you that he had been violated, and then going to the UTMB to get the forensic rape exam done, and he felt violated again because he had to take off his clothes again, and he was super hysterical, you know, during that time after the same exam. So you can imagine how he was feeling at the pediatrician's office, but he trusted, you know, our pediatrician because she knows us. So she, me and her talked and everything and gave him a prescription. He had to do STD testing and all of that. She gave us a hug. She was really upset about what transpired with Noah. I was really upset because I had seen the aftermath of how much damage that was done. So after we had left,
she was angry, she was furious, she was really upset about the whole situation, so she decided to go to the daycare center and confront them.
I was contemplating on going straight to the daycare, which I did. Bypassed the daycare at first because I was trying to see were there any parents there so I can warn them and let them know what had happened. But I realized that around that time it was nap time, so I ended up turning around circling back, but my rage took over and I end up on the premises of the daycare. I parked on the vehicle away from the building so my child couldn't see what was going to happen. I wasn't even thinking at that time. I get out, I go straight to the door. I'm ringing the doorbell, I'm banging on the door, and I see Hamsa and a teacher standing there looking terrified. She hesitated to grab her cell phone, of which I gestured to her that she needed to get her cell phone because I was coming after her, of which I've said more stuff than that.
It's really unclear on when this conversation about the daycare cameras were brought up, but in Ciera's TikTok videos, she implies that she knew that the daycare cameras were broken, so I'm guessing they would have told her this. It's also mentioned in the police report.
Because they had already been saying that the cameras were broken.
And I'm telling you guys this now because she does mention this later on in her timeline, and it's really important to talk about the security cameras because there's something really weird with that as well.
I realized that they weren't going to open the door, so I turned around, I drove off, and I went in the opposite direction because I knew the police were going to come after me. And all I seen was black. I was having a lot of rage. I was angry. I was confused. They needed to give me some answers about what happened to my kid, who was pulled over by the police. They proceeded, already automatically knew who I was, and I said, I guess you know what I did. And then we talked and everything, and I kind of broke down. I did break down in front of him. And he basically calmed me down and just told me, you know, you need to be here for your child, because what if you're in there locked up? You need to be here for your child. Calm me down. He gave me a good talk. He was a good cop. He was really good. He was actually the only good thing that came out of this whole situation. At the time, while I was pulled over by the cop, I actually had told the cop.
Due to the cameras being broken, etc., Ciera's like, okay, well, it's my word against hers. And if I'm there, show me the footage on the camera. Now, apparently, in the report, according to Hamsa, when they went to the daycare center to, I guess, get a report and also get the camera footage, she stated that they have more than one location in the daycare about the incident. She attempted to get the video footage. She stated that they have more than one location, and she got with the guy that takes care of the video, and he stated that they were offline and had her put the Arlo cameras back online. She stated that they had been offline for 3 months and she was unaware of it.
He came back, he had a little smile on his face like, oh, I know what she's doing. So I just basically was wanting to know. Everybody wanted to know where the cameras were at. He came back. When he got off the radio, he didn't say anything about the camera. He just basically, you know, gave me a pep talk.
You guys think it's a coincidence, or do you guys think it was purposely shut off? Let me know in the comment section below. Now, I think while she's with the police or after, she ends up getting a call from the detective Demasi. Now, according to the report, it tells her that they need to be a forensic interview at the Children Alliance on the 10th of the 18th, 2022.
On my route home, I called Noah's dad and I asked, you know, and I was telling Noah's dad, like, hey, I was pulled over by the cops and things like that. He literally like brushed me off, but at the same time, he kept contacting me, trying to get more information and things like that.
And according to the report, on the 15th, Ciera observed a white truck following her. The truck was slowly driving by her house, and it was an old white male. She wasn't able to get the plate license, and as well as that, on the report, Ciera provided no evidence to the police of this incident happening. But while I'm editing this video, she has released this on her TikTok, which seems to just be one photo.
Fast forward to the next day of Noah's Children's Alliance investigation, his interview.
Before the interview, according to the report, it mentions a white truck following her, and the truck was an older white man with a young boy. Followed Ciera to the interview, and after she finished the interview at the Children Alliance, the truck also followed her back home.
So when we got there, that was my first time meeting Demasi. My first encounter with her was that she treated me like I was a liar. And when I tried to tell her that the teacher that was told to me that was Noah's teacher was not Noah's teacher who she was talking about, she tried to argue with me and she tried to say that I was a liar. Like I was crazy. Like, oh no, these people say Noah's teacher is this person. I had to literally pull out my cell phone and show her my cell phone, the text message thread between me and the teacher who I was talking to, who had been keeping a full conversation from me from the time he started August the 17th to the day I discovered that he was violated.
So after the initial contact with Texas Demasi, the nurse practitioner wanted to do an exam. At first I was hesitant, but she explained to me that if Noah had a large stool burden, usually that happens when the child is penetrated. So she basically was just going through the protocol with me and everything. At first, the male doctor was going to go in there with them, but I objected. I felt like Noah did not need to be around a male at the moment, or she said that I could go in there with them and everything to make him feel comfortable. After we went through the whole exam and everything, she asked him straight up, like, who did this to you? He kept saying, two bad guys and the buddy, but I could not understand what he was saying. She caught what he said, and I asked her, did you hear what he said that last time? She said it sounded like he said two bad guys and a buddy. She said that she was going to get with the detective and let her know what he said to her.
Nowhere in this report it mentions that the doctor had contacted the detective or the police to discuss what Noah said to her, but it did say something else. Now, if you keep watching, we'll get into what that something else is. Then the following week, the detective ended up contacting Ciera.
Wanted to know what did the nurse practitioner say to me, and I told her exactly what the nurse practitioner said and what Noah said to the nurse practitioner. I also said that Ethan recognized these people on the picture as well, that Noah had pointed out. She wanted to set up an appointment with Ethan to be interviewed at the Children's Alliance Center that following Monday.
Now, according to Ciera's timeline that she has shared online, not by what the police have on their report, that timeline, this is around the time when she noticed she was getting stalked.
That weekend, we basically held up in the house. I noticed that some vehicles were driving by my home and turning around in the neighbor's house driveway and turning back around. And as long as I have been there for 7.5 years, we never had that type of traffic before. And that was a cul-de-sac, and it was pretty quiet over there. So I didn't understand, at first, like, what was going on. I even took a picture of one of the vehicles and even sent the picture of the vehicle to Noah's father, and even called the police and filed the reports to let them know, like, hey, I don't know what's going on, but they're all, whoever they were looking in my direction and my home. I wanted to know, who that was stalking. They could have pulled the traffic cameras if they wanted to.
Now, I did ask Ciera if I could see this footage, if we're allowed to show this footage of her getting stalked, because she mentioned she had video footage, but she had told me that the attorney advised against this. From what I know, she can only speak to news outlets and journalists, etc., things like that. But according to Ciera's Facebook, the correct timeline, I'm assuming, is the one on the police report, because she actually posted on the Facebook post that the next day I had to take my son to the Children's Alliance Center, and I noticed I was being followed by a white male in a truck. So that's when she was taking Noah to the Alliance Center to get interviewed. So that's actually when she, I believe, noticed she was getting stalked, etc. So the police report timeline is the correct one regarding the stalking situation. Now, according to the report, this is what someone named Grace, I'm assuming is the doctor, this is what they told the detectives. Grace contacted me. She advised that John had a large stool burden in his bowel and constipation was final diagnosis. She advised that she was going to suggest Mrs. Laurie to give John Marilax and increase fiber and water intake. Which is really interesting because the other report, forensic nurse, said it was how do you go from sex to its constipation? How does that get you a lesion on your male body part? Then on the 10th, the 21st, 2022, Grace contacted them and advised them that they contacted Mrs. Laurie, and she advised her of the x-ray findings, and Mrs. Laurie told her that she could not leave the house because someone at the church is following her. Now, there was actually meant to be an interview with Ethan at the Child's Alliance, but due to the kids being sick, not only that, Ciera being really worried driving out due to her allegedly being stalked, she decided that Ethan wasn't going to do the interview at that time.
Came up on that Monday, contacted Demasi, and I told her that we could not come in because the kids both had the flu. At that time, I was panicking because I didn't know what was going on, because people literally were driving by my home, looking in my direction. I mean, I was looking directly at them. And I was just like, who is these people? I mean, it got so bad to like my older son was asking me, why are these people looking at our house? I end up, for precaution, kept my older son out of school for the week anyway because of he had the flu, but then also because of precaution, I didn't know what was going on.
Now, sometime later, Ciera's neighbor ended up helping her with an attorney.
My neighbor was aware of everything. We looked out for each other, to see who was coming to our homes or around. She worked for a law firm, and she told her boss, who's an attorney, about everything that was going on. I told her, I don't want to make this about money. Like, I need to find out what's going on. She said, no, he wants to explain to you about everything. Like, you're gonna need an attorney, whether you want one or not. He ended up contacting me, and I ended up telling him everything that had happened, and he just went over everything, just kind of reassured me, we're gonna investigate and find out what's going on.
Fast forward, my attorney sent a demand letter that following Tuesday, and Demasi was supposed to have gotten back with me to reschedule interviews with my son. So I was actually waiting on for him to be interviewed at the Children's Alliance Center. But that following Tuesday, the week after they were sick, I ended up in the email from the attorney's office saying, hey, we're going to send the demand letter to the church and daycare to let them know that if they, destroy any evidence, that they would be hit with tampering obstruction charges. So as soon as the demand letter was sent, I get a call the same day from Demasi within like a couple of hours saying that they're closing the case because the DA feel like Noah was constipated. Immediately, I got hysterical, and I was like, my son was, and I'm taking this to the public, and I hung up.
On the 26th of the 10th, 2022, the detective reports that we stopped this case at MDT, and it was determined that no crime occurred and the rectal tear was due to the constipation and stool that he had passed in the previous days.
Contacted the attorney, let them know what happened. He said, I knew this was going to happen. We're going to do our own investigation.
Now, days after, according to Ciera, she ends up getting confronted.
2 days later, my son was at daycare, at his after-hours school, so I had to go pick him up. Usually I go pick him up at a certain time. You would have not known that I was at home unless I told you my schedule, because I always parked my vehicle in the garage. As soon as I pulled out of my garage, I am ambushed by a cop, and I was like, what's this about? And he was like, oh, I just want to talk to you for a second. And then here comes Casey Collins. She comes right behind him, standing like right across from the back seat, and she's like, yes, I am with DFCS, not with CPS. I just want to talk to you about the incident with Noah. Then she said up under her breath, and something else. And I was like, what do you mean something else? She was like, can we talk to you for a second? At that time I was rushing. I was like, no, I have to go pick up my kid, and I don't know what this is about. If you're still here when I get here, then yeah, I'll talk to you. So I drove out, contacted the attorney, let them know what was going on. I couldn't get in touch with him. I contacted my mom, telling her what was going on. She was telling me to be calm and everything. So as I go pick up Ethan, I come back home, and they're still standing there. So I pulled in my driveway, my garage, and then I went out. I opened the front door, and I let her know right away, hey, we have representation, said the name of the attorney in the firm, and I asked what this was about. She kind of looked at me, and she was like, we just want to talk to you about thing you said about Noah. At that time, I had my mom on speakerphone, so they come in the house. She goes, could you tell me a little bit about what happened with Noah? You know, acting like she's concerned about story with Noah. So I told her the whole story, but the first thing that I noticed was that the body cam, I looked at his body cam and I made sure it was on. I looked at her and I continued the story. She goes, okay, and there's something else. And I said, what do you mean something else? And she goes, we're concerned about your mental health. And I was like, my mental health? And my mom was like, her mental health? What's going on? And she was like, did you go to the daycare and bang on the door and all of that? And I said, I sure in the hell did, and I'll do it again. She said, and did you call the police department and file reports saying that people were driving by your home and stalking you and things like that? And I was like, yes, because they were. I was like, I even showed a picture to the cop that the vehicle that was doing that, and there were other vehicles that was doing it, and where it was like a lot of traffic. So then she goes, well, they said that he was constipated. So, and I was like, my son was not constipated. Actually, I have the medical records.
So as I'm trying to explain to Casey Khalid that I have the medical records to prove that my son was assaulted at the daycare, she initially tells me, oh, well, I want to see the paperwork. So I go upstairs and I get the paperwork, and my mom's on the phone the whole time, and she was like, I don't think you should show her anything. This doesn't even sound right, like the way how she's talking. And I told my mom, it's fine, I'm gonna go down there and prove that he assaulted, because I got this paperwork from the forensic nurse. So as I go downstairs, I open a folder, I take out the first paper, which is the discharge paper, and I show her final diagnosis, says of a child. She looks at it, she overlooks what I'm showing her. She goes down where it says medication, and it says Miralax. It says Miralax right here. I said, that's because they give them Miralax when they're penetrated. They had no choice but to give him Miralax just in case he stopped up. So she goes, I don't understand why you won't accept the fact that your son is constipated. So then I tell her, my son was not constipated. Matter of fact, I carried my son for 9 months. I know him from top to bottom, inside out. And I'm sorry that you feel that my son was constipated, but you're not a medical professional. And then I looked at the police officer and told him, I'm sorry, but you're not a medical professional either, and the DA is not a medical professional. My son was. So she goes, well, I'm sorry, but that is what they're saying, not raped and all of this stuff, whatever. Then she starts to ask me, where was Noah's father? Where did he live? And all of this stuff. I caught myself and I said, me and my mom both at the same time, why do you want to know where he lived? What does that have to do with Noah being, what do you want to know about him? I said, no, you need to leave. Get out. And she looks at me like, she leaves. As she's walking out the door, I tell her, you can contact my attorney, gave her the information again, and she just kind of looked at me and just walked off, all pissed off or whatever, because I made her get the hell out of my house. And then once I got out, my mom was like, nope, that don't sound right, that don't sound right, that don't sound right. So I told my mom, hey, I'm gonna call you back. The attorney was giving me a call. So I told the attorney everything that was going on. The first thing they said was, go get the police report.
She then left to get a copy of the police report, and she also put in a complaint after what she just dealt with.
They told me they were going to take her off the case and everything, when I went all the way up to ombudsman and everything to file a complaint. And I contacted Wayne Moore, which was her supervisor, to tell him that I didn't want her no longer on this case because of her professionalism and everything, and the way how she came at me.
Now, when she gets the report, as I showed you guys before, this is when she discovers that, according to the report, Andrew has been speaking with the detective.
When I get the police report, before I even get in my vehicle, I scan through the police report, and there's Noah's father name all over this police report. And I'm like, what does he have to do with the police report? We don't even know anything about our day-to-day life. So I'm just reading, and I see that something about, he said that crazy, all of this stuff or whatever.
In the report, in the police report, it was basically said that he had asked the children, the child care investigator, did she think that he was violated at his daycare, of which he said that she told him No.
So I contact my attorney. I say, hey, I got the police report, and you know, Andrew's name is all over this police report. It's saying that he said crazy stuff about me. Like, this whole police report is false. And she said, we were expecting for the police report to be false, fabricated. Just don't confront him. Don't say anything to him about it.
She didn't listen to her attorney and she ends up messaging Andrew.
But me being me, I was pissed off. I contacted him and I said, hey, you know, I texted him, why would you tell them that Noah wasn't raped? Why would you tell them that I was lying? You seen the same pictures that I seen. And I was like, you know what? This is defamation. I'm going after you after defamation. So he sends me a screenshot of his attorney and all of that. And so I texted him and I was like, you're just doing that because I don't want to be with you. You're just doing this because I didn't comply when you asked me to come to your house. You know, you've never been in Noah's life. You know, you've never been around. So I don't understand why you would do this to us. He didn't respond. I just blocked him and didn't talk to him since all of this stuff was going on.
Next day, Casey Carly ends up calling Ciera's attorney, and from the sounds of things, this was done to see if she was really getting represented by an attorney.
Attorney gave me a call and said, hey, the social worker Casey just called us to make sure that we're representing you and Noah. And I said, what? She says, yes. The attorney was like, hey, you're not even supposed to be calling us. We need to be talking to your supervisor. You don't need to even be knowing anything about representing our clients or anything like that. So they told me she was like, oh. But after they had talked to the supervisor, they advised that it was hard for her to quote unquote get off of the case. So she had stayed on the case after all of that stuff that she had done. The one thing she started asking, oh, we want a psychological evaluation, but it will be our doctor's choice. She don't have to pay anything. My attorney said absolutely not. That is an invasion of her privacy. And no, he wanted to meet with me. He said, hey, is there any way that you can reach out to go get the actual medical records from the forensic nurse?
Now, fast forward to November, Ciera then finally gets from what it sounds like, the final medical records.
Went to the attorney's office. I said, hey, this police report, we got to talking about the police report. We got to talking about the medical records. The police report, he tells me, he said,
and according to Ciera, her attorney said that Andrew was not the one behind the phone calls. And I'm assuming is the calls when the people came to see how everything is, or the phone calls that are on the report. This is not elaborated on, by the way.
He wasn't even the one that filed the report. So I gave him the look and we got to talking and he said, yes, this is some crazy stuff. He tells me that Casey Khalid says she's here for me and not the situation with Noah. But I tell him every time that she asks for something like a collateral, which we presented her with the collaterals, people that can vouch for her that, you know, I'm a good mom and everything like that. She always reverted back to, what about the daycare? What about the rape with Noah? Of which my collaterals never told her. And so my aunt ended up talking to her when she contacted her. My aunt gave her a good review about me as being a parent, because my aunt would not lie about anything. She asked my aunt, what about the daycare? My aunt made a mistake and told her that Noah was going to my oldest son's after school.
Around December, Ciera ends up getting hacked.
There have been other things came into play. I filed a police report back in December because someone hacked my social security number through and took it through the dark web and pulled my TransUnion report. That's all they did.
So now we are in January, and according to Ciera's timeline of events and everything that she has mentioned on TikTok, this is around the time that she gets the report.
How I ended up getting the lab report, I ended up contacting Houston Crime Lab to get the lab report. So I contacted the attorney and I said, hey, they said that the lab report had been done since the second week of January. And here it is, the end of January.
And according to her Facebook post, allegedly her lab report actually proves that he was SA. And the lab results, I don't believe she has shared to the public either. Now, according to Ciera, on the same day when she was getting the lab results, Casey Kylie sends another worker to go talk to her older son. According to her, they actually went to his school to question him, and apparently they knew that they weren't meant to go talk to this boy without the mother or the attorney present. And then around February, she ends up getting contacted by Noah's father, which she ended up sharing the messages online, and this is what was said. Ciera ends up going on Facebook, sharing everything to what allegedly happened to her son. Now, this post was made in February, and allegedly not once did the church or the daycare say anything. It was silent until Ciera started making videos in TikTok, which was recently, I believe maybe the start of July or a month before July. That's when she started making these TikTok videos, and it started getting more attention. The neighborhood talk was talking about it. Now, due to those videos, everyone is seeing everything, and due to the daycare and the church being quiet previously when she spoke about it on Facebook, plus everything that's been mentioned in the videos, they end up facing a big backlash from everyone on the internet, and that's when they finally responded about the accusations. Before I show you the responses, Ciera also showed the pictures of the individuals that allegedly did stuff to Noah, and somehow people were able to work out who they were, and their information ended up being all over TikTok and the internet. Now, I have reached out to these individuals to get their side of the story. Now, allegedly from other parties, they've been also stalked, harassed, etc. So they end up deleting their images of Facebook and many details. This is according to the people that are related to the church. This was on a campaign that is actually against Ciera's accusations. And anyway, it says the internet immediately found the men's names, addresses, place of work, and school. The three men that Lowy accused were 2 adults and 1 teenage boy. All 3 of the accused men were all at different places that day. The 2 adults were at work and the teen was at school, none of which are close to the daycare. There are multiple eyewitnesses that can support these men's alibi. And apparently, according, this was also in the police report, which I don't have access to due to me not being American. But if you guys know how, let me know in the comments below on my Instagram. The only police report I do have is the one that Ciera shared on her TikTok, which doesn't actually have everything or the full report. I like to also add there has been no evidence provided to the public to show that these boys have been stalked. And I haven't personally seen their addresses leaked online, but I have seen their Facebook and some of their previous work history and maybe current work history as well. Now, let's get into the churches and the daycare's response. Okay, it says, please note, a video on TikTok platform has been circling containing defamatory statements against our childcare facility. Unfortunately, numerous individuals who have viewed the video have unquestionably accepted its content as true, leading to posting of negative reviews under the assumptions of being responsible citizens. We kindly request that the individuals verify the veracity of these false allegations by consulting the Child Care Licensing Authority and the League City Police Department, who possess accurate and comprehensive information regarding our operations. It's critical to understand that the majority of our teachers are dedicated mothers and grandmothers who prioritize the safety and well-being of the children in our care. Given the nature of our facility, there are multiple children, including schoolers and teachers, coexist within a 1,500 square feet building with accessible restrooms in the classrooms and hallways. It is implausible to believe that a child could be harmed during daytime hours. Okay, so if we look at the photos, right, it does seem like a very small building. I will say though, if I had kids, I would never take my kids here. Like, there's literally no windows in this daycare. No windows at all. There's windows, but the windows are in the hallway, so everyone can see everything. So the church also had their statement. Here it basically says they're devoted to the community and that they believe everyone is made in the image of God, so everyone is treated with respect and kindness. Here's basically they're saying they're committed to make the church a safe environment for everyone, including children, and basically that's why they're taking these allegations really serious. And they say it was brought to their attention after multiple confrontations and disagreements with the children's staff. Ciera, her full name, purported that her child had been SA at the childcare center located at the property. Miss Laurie's original claims did not directly involve Greater Life Church or any of the church members. That's because at that time, allegedly, according to her story, her timeline, she didn't know. Anyway, nonetheless, if we had followed protocol for such accusations, contacting local authorities, the appropriate agencies, and etc., League City Police Department of Texas Health and Human Services, the agency regulating daycares in Texas, were immediately notified. Multiple investigations were conducted, including their own investigation, and basically, according to their investigation, there was no wrongdoing. He then says that Ciera has been taken to social media in what could be described basically a targeted campaign, giving misleading information, not only about the child care center and the people that work there, the church and the church members, but also the people that were investigating these accusations. And basically they said that she embellished upon her original claims and led that people believe the sensational, baseless, and uncooperative narrative. Basically narrative without evidence.
I have tried reaching out to the sergeant. I have tried reaching out to the lieutenant. I have tried to reach out to the captain, and they have all shunned me. They have not reached out to me or the attorneys to talk to me about anything. Shame on that police department. That how could you let criminals get away with this?
Now the daycare and the church are not the only one who decided to come out and say something. There are two TikTok accounts who came forward to basically debunk Ciera's claims. One of them named Justice for Greater Life, that is someone who is a part of the church. Then we also have Justice for Truth, who seems to be a part of Ciera's past. It says, again, I'm a local of Ciera's previous community. I just want this terror to end. They also state that in the coming week, y'all, the public will see how you've been misled and gravely deceived by Ciera. She has put on an entire community under attack, 300 plus people receiving DT for false allegations as her form of promised retaliation. You, her public, had a role to play in that. Ciera's illegally changed statements, left out facts, and disordered stories to gain the following she stated she would try to attain in 2022. You have all fallen for this vicious circle of a lie. Ciera, you have terrorized the local communities for many years now. Enough is enough. So this is someone that I'm assuming is a part of Ciera's past. Now, I did reach out to this person because apparently they saying that Andrew said that Ciera is not to be trusted, etc. When I asked this person, oh well, I would like to hear their side to communicate with Andrew if I could have the contact details, I messaged them and I have not heard from them ever since. While the other one has been open to talking to me and answering my questions, and they actually put out a petition against Ciera's petition. So let's get into that. So basically in the petition they mentioned why they can't really reveal themselves due to how everyone is acting. They also leave a disclaimer, and they also state that the Justice for Noah campaign has been spread by Ciera Laurie on this platform, has been posted using fake and baseless claims and accounts. I understand that when you read the petition description, her story and her TikTok sound believable, but she says nothing that happened behind the scenes of this alleged incident. However, I'm in the position of this situation to pull back the curtain and reveal what truly happened on October the 12th, 2022. Okay, so in short, it states here that they called Ciera to the daycare to pay a bill that she hasn't been paying for months. She basically complained and refused to pay the bill. They told her to leave the premises because she wouldn't pay the bill, and then she said on the way out, she said, I will shut down this daycare and this church. Now, on the police report, guys, it's totally different. This is not stated in the police report. When I asked the person where they got this information, because it's not stated in the police report, they told me, she goes, I'm not sure, most officers do, however, have field notes that you may be interested in. Most times the report is the final draft. The field notes are usually taken first and on the scene. It's also possible that there could be more officers involved that have not been mentioned. There's been multiple agencies involved in the investigation. The thing is, on the report, they also said that Hamsa said that to Ciera, that maybe the daycare isn't suited for her, etc., due to other reasons. This is not mentioned at all. This is something very important and key. They also said that several days later, Lori submitted the police report to the League Police Department stating that her child had been SA as the Little People's Daycare. As the evidence support the alleged crime, she submitted hospital records and tests that was taken on her child to test for SA, which is required to the state of Texas. This test showed negative results. However, the medical reports, the doctor notes, did state instead that her son was struggling with severe constipation, and that was the final diagnosis. But this is the thing, on the reports that Ciera has, it says the final diagnosis was SA. They also said, despite the lack of evidence, League City did the right thing and investigated the report anyway, and Lori conveniently didn't mention in her petition that CPS, DFPS, and several other government organizations started to also investigate the claim. She did mention it on her TikToks though, personally talking with her son's doctors, investigation Little People Daycare, and its staff. After a few months of the investigation, all these organizations closed the case due to finding no evidence nor probable cause to support Lori's claim. Lori states in her petition that she has been gang stalked and retaliated on. However, there is no evidence to support this, and I have proof that she has been at Greater Life Church herself, and after she reported to the authorities. She was caught attending to the church multiple times using the church's security camera. Her audio was captured as well on camera. She didn't talk to anyone while she was there. If she was getting gang stalked by those at the Greater Life, why does she keep returning to where her child was allegedly SA'd? Now, I asked this person if they could provide the evidence to me of her being at the church. She goes, as for proof, it's security camera footage that I cannot show or release as it may be used for evidence in an upcoming civil trial. But it is good to know that they have security cameras there, because this could be used in the trial, because apparently, according to Ciera's older son, they were brought into the church. If that's true, that should be on the security camera footage, and now we know that they have it in the church. Now, they talk about how the two men were not at the church or near the daycare at that time, and that they have alibi to support their claims, and that the teenager was at school. And in more recent redemption of this story, she has stated that the men allegedly SA'd her son with scissors. In a TikTok live, she had the child show that the men allegedly did to him using them on the live. May I remind you again that he is 3. Lori is just traumatizing the child by making him do things. This is the 3rd time she has changed the story, and I bet it won't be the last. Again, I asked this person if they have any evidence of this. They said unfortunately they did not record this live, but you guys can let me know in the comment if you have seen this live yourself, if you are subscribed to her TikTok. Let me know. Also stated that her ex-husband has also stated that he wasn't involved in the case, and that Lori is a crazy psychopath and not to be trusted when interviewed by the various government organizations about her son's case. But the police report says otherwise, because he did hire an investigator, someone named Tara as well, to look into this. Now, they also state in this that the young boy, which I believe is 18 by the way, has been picked on at school, harassed by other students, bullied. Others have been receiving D threats. And they also state that her GoFundMe is getting investigated due to finding fraudulent means, meaning she's not using the money for what she's saying she will. So I don't know how they know that, unless that's what they reported that she's not doing, and that's how they know it's being investigated. Because the only way they would know is if someone reported it, I believe. I could be wrong, correct me in the comments. They also said, now I'd like to add something very important to this story. Greater Life Church has multiple buildings attached to. Most of the time they lease out the buildings to business. In this instance, they've been leasing the part of the Greater Life Church building to the Little People Greater Life Daycare for years. The daycare adopted a similar name for Greater Life Church due to its closeness, but the other than being similar than Greater Church due to its closeness, but other than being their landlord, the church is not affiliated with them at all. They don't gain any profit from the daycare being there besides them paying lease, so petition for the shutdown of Greater Life Church are unnecessary and in my opinion pointless due to the Greater Life not being involved in the business at all. Now, according to Ciera, she strongly indicated in her TikTok video that all this in the petition is lies. Now, Ciera ends up uploading another video on her TikTok of Noah talking about his friend named Madison.
Push, Ethan. What, Noe?
My friend Madison wants to go home.
Why she wanted to go home?
Because the bad guys touched him.
Bad guys touched her?
Yeah. So I'll beat them.
And what did you do?
I did not hit him. Just give him a hug.
You just gave him a hug?
Yeah.
Gave who a hug?
My friend Madison.
You just gave your friend Madison a hug?
Yeah.
Now, allegedly, apparently, a worker at the daycare has actually spoke out and reached out to Ciera. I like to let you guys know I don't know how legit this is. Ciera posted this on a TikTok and it says, "Hi Ciera, I used to work at the daycare when I was a teenager. I can tell you now that Hamsa does not care about the kids' well-being. I remember witnessing a teacher hit the kids and just being straight mean to the kids. And she knew and she did not care. She's about her money, and I also remember the church being connected to the daycare and I'd be able to freely walk back and forward if I wanted to. So that just shows how easy it could have been for those guys to get into the daycare from the church. I pray for your son and hope you get justice. If y'all decide to protest, let me know."
But this is my life that I'm going through right now. And I'm literally spiraling. I don't know who to turn to. I don't know who to talk to. I just really need everything to like stop, because I'm really just trying to get justice for my child.
And now I just feel like that they ruined that experience for him, because now I don't know how we're going to navigate this next year when he actually starts elementary. He's already having anxiety when my job is literally like 2 minutes, like right across the street, walking distance. I don't know how we're going to navigate this next year when he goes to elementary, because they single-handedly ruined this school experience for him.
So everything is obviously blowing up, and I guess this is when things start to get worse for Ciera, because she ends up moving out of her home and she ends up going to a friend's place. And even then, when she was moving to her friend's place, according to her, she was getting stalked.
The last day of us moving out, they followed us to my friend's house. They would sit out there in front of my friend's home just to try to intimidation.
I have a friend now that just told me last night these people are like, noticed that 3 people watching me.
It mentions a incident one morning when she was driving to drop her kids and go to work, that she had 2 vehicles following her. And not only that, she also had people following her into stores and things of that nature. As for now, Ciera has moved to a total different county now.
And guess what? It's still happening. I have recordings, I have security, I have names, because I've gotten license plate names, license plate numbers ran. It's happening.
As well as that, someone apparently left a comment under Ciera's TikTok video stating that they knew that she opened up a bank account.
Talking about, you know, me making a bank account for Noah. Like, how did you know that? I mean, I just literally opened up that bank account like literally 2 hours prior to me seeing that comment. These people are invading my privacy.
Again, she showed no evidence of this though. She shared no screenshot of this comment or nothing. Okay, so here is my conclusion to everything so far. Later on, once more information comes out, of course it will change, but I got a list here. Let's get into it. Okay, so number 1 is that Ciera fails to show credible evidence. This is excluding a medical report, which we'll get into. Her getting stalked multiple times. She has said that she had photos, videos. She has not shown that to anyone, not once, not even the police. But to be fair, she did say that the police report was all fabricated.
And actually the police report, everything was fabricated.
But she never elaborates, because in the police report, it also says that she was stalked. So does that mean her being stalked is fabricated? Do you understand? It's very important to be very elaborative, if that's a word, when you make these claims. And she never elaborates on this. It's like she just throws it out there and we just meant to know. And that's not how the world works, especially when you want people to sign a petition and to give you money. Don't take this personally either. Take this as, oh, you know what? He's right. Let me see what I can do. So let's keep going. The messages of her asking Hamsa about why her son is standing up, she never showed that. The video that she sent Noah's father of Noah indicating that he knew who the people were in the photo.
I immediately recorded that and sent it to his father and said, oh my God, Noah knows these people.
She never shows that to anyone. She has no problem showing one video when Noah's talking about his friend, but she never shows the other video. That's kind of a red flag, and other people who do look into things and who are not running off emotions, they're going to question that. And also, Andrew, there's something really, really strange about that. One moment he's helping Ciera investigating. Next thing you know, she's upset with him, but because apparently he spoke to the police, but at the same time, the police report is all fabricated. So that's what I mean. It's so important to elaborate on what you say. You also got to keep in mind that she has an attorney, and her attorney has advised her not to show certain things, and as well as that, she can only speak to journalists, because I have reached out to her to try to have a better understanding on a lot of things. Now, before I talk about the others, the church and all that, and what's a bit iffy about them, let's talk about the medical report. Only one thing that report proves, and that is that the son was SA'd. That's according to an expert, but that doesn't prove that it happened in a daycare, nor does it prove that it happened in a church. It just proves that it happened. Okay, now let's go on to the other side. It is very iffy that the church and the daycare never responded until it was public. Until today, the daycare, the church still don't speak out, and that's kind of a red flag. But that's like Ciera, she can't talk on certain things, right? And she's got an attorney, and now we know that they allegedly are having a court case, right? So they have attorneys, and there's a lot of things that they are not speaking on. And if you look, it does look like it's getting handled very professionally, like look like a PR did it, you know, their statement that they left on their website and everything like that. Another thing is none of the boys or the father has spoke out. The attorney told them not to say anything. That's kind of sad. That is so sad, because I'm telling you right now, if someone accused me of that and the attorney said don't say anything, that's an issue. I'm gonna go, okay, well, you go out and you talk to people. You go tell the whole public what's going on, because I'm getting picked on. My name is getting dragged through the mud, and you expect me to be quiet? Nah, you go out and you speak. I don't see why an attorney can't do that. The attorney has done that for the Shanquella case. I'm sure they have their professional reasons why not, but that's crazy. And when it first came out, they never spoke out at all. They never said one thing. That makes you look guilty to the public. Another thing is, why haven't League Police said anything publicly? I have contacted them 3 times, one through their database website thing. You put your email and ask whatever you're requesting for. One time through a phone call, and another time through another email, and I still have not had a response from them. So that's another red flag, is that they are not speaking on this at all. Why?
I have tried to talk to the sergeant, the lieutenant, the captain, and the only thing, anytime when I call up there, they say, oh, you know, we have a note for you. What? I don't want to see a note. No, how about you tell them to contact me, call me. Even when I went up there, they didn't want to see me. They claimed they wasn't there, but they were there.
Now let's go to the report, how they closed it because it was due to constipation. Okay, what about the lesion on his boy part? How come that isn't put in account? Why do you totally ignore another expert opinion to Grace, whoever she is, some doctor, nurse who took the x-ray? I understand that the daycare has been investigated, etc. like that, and all the procedures and what they do, but at the end of the day, are they really, let's say they did, and that is true, that they did hit a child, are they really going to do that in front of an investigator? The building literally has no windows facing in, so no one can't go outside and look and spy on them to see what's going on. Literally, they know when an investigator is in that building. Regardless on the situation, this whole situation, everyone needs to be looked into, because obviously there's a report that says a young boy was SA'd. Okay, so what can you guys do? You guys can contact the FBI. You guys can contact the Houston News in Houston. You can post her TikToks, bits of my videos if you want. Anything you want, you can post on Twitter, Facebook. Share it. Signing her petition, let's say she's not being honest. Regardless, signing her petition is going to get people to further look into the whole situation and hopefully get to some proper conclusion, right? As well as that, if you want to donate to her, all links below, that is up to you. If you guys can also respectfully call the League Police Department, and you can ask them questions. You can ask them, why did they close the case on constipation when there is a doctor report that has an expert that said the boy was SA'd? Ask the League Police that. That's the question I wanted to ask them, and I was not able to get an answer. No one answered their phone when they put me into that department that like talk to the public and stuff. But I'm sure if you guys who watch this video make that call, all the information will be in the video. Respectfully ask them what's going on and record it and then tell me what they said, okay? Because I definitely want to know what the hell's going on with that. Why isn't this being looked into when there's clearly an expert that said the boy was SA'd?